He who endures to the end will be saved. In every fall, there is an opportunity to rise stronger.
Resilience is not about avoiding suffering, but finding wisdom in every experience that transforms us.
Fear not, for I am with you. Every obstacle is a step toward the light.
Like the lotus that blooms in the mud, true beauty arises from the most difficult moments.
My burdens are light for those who trust. Faith moves mountains and heals hearts.
Suffering is the wisest teacher, and compassion toward ourselves is the first step to healing.
Imagine for a moment that two of the most influential figures in human history sat down to talk like old friends. What would they think about how we can transform our deepest wounds into sources of wisdom and compassion to help others? What would they say about the idea that true resilience isn't about avoiding the falls, but about developing the ability to find meaning and growth in every difficult experience? Today, in this space, Jesus of Nazareth and Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, share their reflections and invite us into deep dialogue and spiritual understanding conversation, where they pour out all their wisdom, each from their own perspective and point of view. Welcome to this sacred dialogue, where mutual respect and ancient wisdom illuminate the challenges of our times. Today we present
My dear friend, when I observe humanity today, I see people struggling with discouragement, feeling defeated by circumstances. A young man who loses his job, a mother facing her child's illness, an elder who feels abandoned. I wonder, how do you perceive suffering's role in strengthening the human soul?
Jesus, my esteemed companion in this search for truth, suffering is like the winter that comes before the spring. It is a natural part of the cycle of existence. What I see is that many people suffer twice, once for the situation itself, and again for resisting the fact that it is part of their path. An executive who loses his business doesn't only suffer the financial loss. He clings to the idea that this shouldn't be happening to me. Resilience arises when we understand that suffering is not punishment, but a teacher. Do you believe suffering has a specific divine purpose?
Profound words, brother. Suffering is not punishment, but often the result of living in a world where human freedom reigns. Yet I firmly believe that even in the darkest moments, a loving presence walks with us. When I see that mother caring for her sick child, I don't see only pain. I see a love that transcends any circumstance. Suffering can be the chisel that carves compassion into our hearts. A man who loses everything materially can discover spiritual riches he never knew he had.
What a beautiful way to describe that loving presence. In my experience, I've seen that when a person fully accepts their present reality, without labeling it good or bad, they find a peace that doesn't depend on external conditions. A woman going through a painful divorce can discover her own inner strength once she stops fighting what is and starts working with what she has. How do you help people find that inner strength when they feel completely lost?
A question that touches the heart directly, my friend. When someone comes to me broken, the first thing I aim to heal are the wounds they inflicted on themselves with their thoughts. A father blaming himself for his child's accident, a wife unable to forgive herself for harsh words. I teach them that self-forgiveness is the first step toward healing. Forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors, is not just a prayer, it's medicine. When we forgive, we release the burdens that keep us fallen. How do you guide those trapped in self-rejection?
Jesus, such wisdom lies in your words about forgiveness. In my experience, I've seen that compassion toward oneself is like watering a withered plant. A student who fails an important exam may be so consumed by self-criticism that they can't see the opportunity to learn. I teach the practice of self-compassion, to speak to oneself as one would to their dearest friend. What would you say to your best friend if they were going through this? When we replace that inner voice of criticism with one of kindness and understanding, the heart naturally opens to wisdom. Resilience blooms in the garden of self-compassion. Have you noticed that resilient people tend to have a different relationship with their mistakes?
Absolutely, brother. Truly resilient people see their mistakes as chances to grow, not proof of their lack of worth. Peter, one of my most beloved disciples, denied me 3 times in my greatest need. But it was not his mistake that shaped his destiny. It was his ability to receive forgiveness and turn that experience into greater strength. Today I see single mothers who, after years of addiction, use their past to help other women. Their fall became their ministry. Unconditional love holds that transformative power.
What you said about Peter is deeply moving. In my observation, when someone allows themselves to fully feel their pain, without judgment or resistance, that pain naturally transforms into wisdom. A businessman who loses his family company might initially feel shame and despair, but if he allows himself to experience those feelings with full awareness, he may discover that his identity was never truly tied to the business. That realization gives him a freedom he never knew before. How would you describe the transformation of pain into wisdom?
My dear Buddha, that transformation you describe is what I call the mystery of resurrection. I do not speak only of my own resurrection, but of the human spirit's power to be reborn after every symbolic death. A marriage in deep crisis can die to its former ways and be reborn into a deeper, more mature love. Faith is not merely believing, it's trusting that a greater purpose is working, even when we cannot see it. How do you help people develop that trust in life's process when everything feels chaotic?
Jesus, I'm deeply moved by your concept of resurrection as a constant renewal. In my experience, I teach that life is like a river that is always flowing. A person who clings to how things should be is like someone trying to stop a river with their hands. A professional who resists change in their industry will suffer more than one who learns to flow with transformation. Trust in the process comes when we understand that change is the only constant. Practicing radical acceptance, not passive resignation, but active engagement with what is, allows us to navigate life's storms with greater serenity. How do you distinguish between faith that heals and faith that becomes a way of escaping reality?
A deep question, brother. True faith is not an escape from reality, but a deeper engagement with it. When I see someone who uses faith to avoid responsibility or growth, I know they have mistaken faith for fantasy. Authentic faith is like a woman facing cancer. She prays for healing but also actively seeks medical treatment. She does not deny her illness. She embraces it with the trust that she is not alone. True faith gives us courage to act. It doesn't excuse passivity.
What a beautiful distinction you've made between faith and fantasy. In my observation, true spirituality makes us more present, not more absent. A father who meditates regularly doesn't become indifferent to his children's needs. He becomes more aware and compassionate in his interactions. Authentic spiritual practice helps us respond to life from a place of clarity, not emotional reactivity. When a person faces a significant loss, they can choose to sink into bitterness or use the experience to gain a deeper understanding of the human condition. What role do you think community plays in the process of healing and resilience?
Brother, you touch on something deeply dear to my heart. Where 2 or 3 gather in my name, there I am in their midst. Healing rarely happens in isolation. A man struggling with depression may find strength he never knew he had when he genuinely connects with others who understand his battle. It's not just practical support that heals. It's the reminder that we are not alone in our struggles. A mother who loses her child finds comfort not only in words of encouragement, but in the silent presence of those who walk with her through grief. Community is the body where the spirit manifests. How do you see the balance between inner seeking and connection with others?
Jesus, There is deep wisdom in your words about healing presence. In my experience, I've seen that the most profound spiritual practice leads us inevitably toward deeper connection with all beings. An executive who cultivates mindfulness at work not only improves their own well-being, but also creates a more compassionate environment for their employees. True enlightenment is not a solitary experience. It is the recognition of our fundamental interconnectedness. When someone practices compassion toward themselves, they naturally begin to extend it to others. A nurse who has healed her own wounds can hold her patient's suffering with a presence that goes beyond medical techniques. How do you help people turn their personal pain into service for others?
Ah, my friend, you've touched the heart of transformation. Pain that is not transformed gets transmitted, but pain embraced with love becomes compassion. I see a woman who, after overcoming addiction, devotes her life to helping others in similar situations. Her scar becomes her credential. She does not minimize her past experience. She uses it as a bridge to hearts in need of hope. Comfort my people doesn't mean giving easy answers, but offering the presence of someone who genuinely understands the path to healing.
The way you describe the transformation of pain into compassion is beautiful. In my observation, when a person fully accepts their own humanity, including their limitations and wounds, they develop a humility that makes them genuinely helpful to others. A therapist who has honestly worked through their own trauma can sit with their client's pain without needing to fix it right away. Their presence becomes medicine. True resilience is not about never falling. It's about knowing that every fall contains the seeds of new growth. How do you help prepare people for the inevitable difficulties that lie ahead?
My dear brother, that question strikes at the core of what it means to be human. True hope is not naive optimism, but the deep conviction that no situation, however dark, is final. I teach people to build their house upon the rock, not upon sand. A young man who cultivates virtues like patience, compassion, and perseverance is building inner resources that no external circumstance can take away. When the storms come, and they always do, he finds he has the tools within to weather them. Prayer is not asking God to change our situation, but allowing our hearts to be transformed so we can face any situation with love.
Jesus, what deep wisdom there is in that image of building on rock. In my experience, true preparation for hardship comes from developing what I call equanimity, the ability to keep a balanced heart in both joy and sorrow. A doctor who cultivates this quality can face life and death situations with clarity and compassion without being overwhelmed by emotional intensity. Regular meditation practice is like training spiritual muscles that grow stronger with use. When a person learns to observe their thoughts and emotions without being swept away by them, they develop an inner stability that remains even in the most turbulent circumstances.
Brother, that equanimity you speak of is what I call the peace that surpasses all understanding. It's a peace that does not depend on things going our way, but on knowing there is a greater love holding every experience. A father facing a terminal illness can find this deep peace that allows him to be fully present for his family without being consumed by fear. It's not indifference. It's a form of love so profound that it can embrace even impermanence. Ultimate resilience comes from knowing we are unconditionally loved, regardless of what we've done or what has happened to us.
How beautifully you describe that unconditional love, Jesus. In my understanding, that is the true nature of reality, a compassionate love that embraces everything without exception. A mother caring for a child with special needs may discover in that experience a capacity for love she never knew she had. Her difficulty becomes her awakening. When we understand that every experience, pleasant or painful, is an opportunity to grow in wisdom and compassion, we develop what we might call spiritual resilience, the ability to find meaning and purpose even in the most challenging of circumstances.
Yes, brother. That spiritual resilience is the most precious treasure we can offer humanity. It is the difference between merely surviving and truly flourishing. And flourishing doesn't mean living without difficulty. It means finding, in each challenge, an opportunity to more fully express who we really are, beings capable of unconditional love, infinite compassion, and unshakable hope. Dear friends who have joined us in this dialogue, I want to leave you with this reflection. Resilience is not a goal you reach once, but a daily practice of choosing love over fear, hope over despair, and faith over doubt. Every day you wake up is a new opportunity to rise stronger, no matter what happened yesterday. In your daily struggles, whether at work, in family life, or in personal growth, remember, you are not alone. There is a loving presence that walks with you always, and a human community that can support you when you feel weak. May peace be with you.
Dear friends of the heart, I invite you to reflect on this. True resilience is born from a deep understanding that we are part of something greater than ourselves. In your moments of hardship, practice compassion toward yourself. Treat your wounded heart with the same tenderness you would offer a frightened child. In your moments of joy, remember that this too is impermanent, and cultivate gratitude. Wisdom is learning to dance with life, not resist its natural rhythm. May all beings be free from suffering, and may they find the peace that already dwells within them.